Hi, Darren. How you doing?
I'm doing great. Are you doing great aside from having to
I'm very
talk
good.
to
I
me
love
yet?
your apartment behind you. You got lots of. I love all
Thank
that
you.
art. You have.
If I can get your eight by 11 headshot, your photo could go on that wall too.
I would love that. What an honor.
Well, the first question I have is, are you Doug to anyone or are you Douglas to everyone?
I'm Doug to many people. I'm Doug, Douglas, Dougie Fresh to some people. Some people call me Doug.
Oh,
I've even been known to be called Dougal, but that doesn't last very long. But yeah, no, I'm Doug. My friends call me Doug. My mother and my fiance calls me Douglas. So take from that what you will.
is it Dougie Fresh because you can beatbox?
No, I wish I could. I wish I could.
Well, before I ask you about other projects, we were connected to talk about that Dirty Black Bag, and that was kind of announced to the industry and to the fans in November, and we know it premieres this month. Did you know about it long before November? I wasn't sure when it was filmed.
It was no. We shot it a year ago. So began shooting a year ago. So I knew about it. I attached about 4 or 5 months before, but I know they've been trying to put it together for years. And Dominic Cooper was attached, and he's a great friend of mine. And I read it, and I thought it was a great adventure and a page turner. And I loved the world, and I loved the idea of playing this character, which is a character unlike anything I played before. And yeah, I jumped straight in.
That was something I was about to ask. Red Bill is not like any other character you've played before. Is there any of you in Red Bill?
Definitely, there's always a bit of you, but you have to have a bit of you inside every character you play. I think for me, I was always a mummy's boy. I was very attached to my mother, and I mean, I think it can resonate with all of us. The idea, and lots of people have lost their mother or will go on to lose their mother, and I imagine it's a traumatic experience for a lot of people. But to have your mother taken in such a violent way, as Red Bill did in front of him, completely scarred him beyond recognition. And I think he's living in purgatory, and he's just trying to come to terms with that. And he's completely lost himself, his way, his soul. I mean, he's carrying around a bag of heads and talking to them. He's trying to find his way out of the nightmare and the hellhole that he's in. He kind of feels completely dead inside and cold, and he's kind of trying to find peace.
Well, something that intrigues me about you is you've never shied away from a role with a cool American accent. The second that they say cut, do you go back to your normal voice, or are you method and like the whole day you are Red Bill?
I think on this show it was almost impossible because so Dominic and Christian, the other actors in it, who I was around a lot, were English. So I think if we all sat around doing American accents, I think people would just look at us like we're idiots. But I remember when I did the Dirt, when I was Nikki Sixx in the Dirt, I kind of stuck in it because all the American actors around me were American, so I just kind of slotted in with them, and it definitely does help. But there's always a line with those things. You don't want to look. There's always a line, you know.
Yeah, I couldn't think of two more diametrically opposed roles, high-profile roles to have back-to-back between that Black Bag and the Dirt. Now, I know the Dirt was like 15 years in development before it came out, something like that. But you turned a lot of heads with that. So to go from Nikki Sixx to this cool Western character really shows your diversity, yet you do so much more than that. So when you started out as an actor, did you have a specialty that you were kind of eyeing, a genre that you wanted to be in, or is it will work for food?
A bit of both. I mean, actually, it was kind of the opposite. I knew what I didn't want to do. I was 16 and I didn't want to end up on a CW show for 15 years or whatever. I didn't want to do that. I wanted to, and I think I was blessed with this role when I was 17. I played Boy George in a BBC film here in the UK. That did well, and lots of people saw it, and I think it kind of set a tone for my career where I was always trying to do something different or not expected. I mean, if you met the young 17-year-old me, I was nothing like Boy George. But I think that's kind of how I fell in love with acting, was being able to play those characters that are so far removed from yourself. It was really a chance to escape really and find, and escape your own reality and kind of go on these adventures or these movies that I always adored when I was a kid. So yeah, I knew what I wanted to avoid. Not always successfully did I avoid it, but I think that I've throughout my career always tried to work with interesting filmmakers or with interesting characters and just keep mixing it up, I guess.
With this kind of a role with Red Bill, do you watch a lot of film? Do you talk to people from the Western genre? Where do you do your homework, or how do you do your homework?
Well, I think for me, I kind of just I focused on my character. Maro, who created the series, he really was the Bible of knowledge on the genre, and it was definitely his influence that brought in the horror influence as well. Mm-hmm. PJ Dillon, our director of photography, who has worked on things from The Alienist to Game of Thrones to a lot of the Marvel stuff, Winter Soldier, and he's also a big spaghetti western fan and extremely experienced, and was our kind of god when it came to the genre. And so much of that genre is about camera and movement. Mm-hmm. And that was his world, and I kind of just played in it, really.
Well, then taking that back to The Dirt, for that, because that's a real person, and it's also based on a book that's based on a real person, and I read The Dirt. Did you spend time with Nikki, or is that what does the director want kind of scenario?
No, I mean, I definitely spent time with Nikki. I went and hung out with him at his house. I spent time with all of them. But I had to be very aware early on. The Nikki that I met wasn't the Nikki I was playing. Nikki doesn't drink anymore. Nikki's sober, and he is a remarkable man now, and he was remarkable for many other ways then. But he's really turned his life around for health. In his health, and his addiction problems. And he's a really sweet guy. He's not the guy that's in the dirt. So I remember even Jeff Tremaine, when I left, saying, Doug, he's like, that's not Nikki, and that's not who you're playing. And I was like, yeah, no, I know. So I was aware of that. And even when I played Boy George, when I hung out with George, I had to be aware of that too. So when I was playing George, actually, he'd written some really amazing autobiographies that were way more helpful about him and his childhood. And I found the Heroin Diaries very interesting from a fact-based thing of what he'd actually physically been up to, and it helped me for a lot of his psychosis stuff. But yeah, I hung out with him more for pleasure, really. And he taught me. He used to text me. He helped me mostly with the playing of the bass. He'd text me videos of him playing chords and stuff, and he was like, "This is how I played it. I played it even though I played it wrong," because he was always, his bass playing was always a little janky, but that's what made it sound so cool. Yeah. So he would say, "No, I would do it this way." So I would always try and just get it just how he did it. So he helped me a lot with the music, I guess.
So it sounds like when you get a role, you actually do the homework, and that's very different from a lot of other lead actors who kind of go like, "I'm going to play it how I feel, and you got to work around me." You're a team player, it sounds like.
I think so. I mean, you try and. I mean, I just think you'd be an idiot if you don't draw on as much stuff as you possibly can, because I don't have all the answers, that's for sure.
Well, I've got two quick questions, and then I'm going to let you roam free and talk to the next journalist who's going to ask you the same 5 questions about your inspiration. And that's looking at your IMDb. It looks like there's a few other completed or post-production projects. There's Gore, The Way of the Wind. Are you allowed to say what's next, or is all focus on that Dirty Black Bag?
Well, I've got it. I'm in the new Terrence Malick film that's coming out, but I don't know when that is. I mean, it's a labor of love, and he's been working on that now for a couple of years. And I have a movie called Unwelcome, which is a creature feature horror by John Wright for Warner Brothers, which I'm very excited about. And then I'm going to be filming 2 films this year, which haven't been announced yet, so I can't mention. But one is I really like, because it's going to be able to show more of my comedic side, which I don't think I've shown before. So I'm really excited about that. And then working with the other one is working with a filmmaker that I've admired for a long time in Italy. So I'm looking forward to that.
But before I ask that last question, Aiden is also in The Way of the Wind. That's 2 projects with him?
2 projects with him. I didn't meet Aiden on that film. I think I was just a part of there was lots going on in that movie. But working with Terry was definitely one of the great honors and pleasures of my life.
Cool. And my last question for you, again, you played Nikki Sixx, you played Boy George, but do you have a favorite musical artist of all time? I don't know that about you.
That's really hard. I'd have to say it's the Beatles. I'd have to say would be it, but that's the band.
Is that because Motley Crue covered Helter Skelter and that's why?
No, I just think that they completely changed music. But I tell you what, I did by the time I finished The Dirt, I was a massive Motley Crue fan, and I definitely listened to a lot more metal than I did before.
Awesome to hear. Well, I look forward to that variety of great projects yet to be announced as well. So thank you for your time, Doug E. Fresh, and keep up the greatness there.
Thank you so much. It's a real pleasure to meet you, Dan. Take care.
Likewise.
Paltrocast.